Okay, Judy's my model for the short layered cut. And on the short layered cut, there are a number of things that are a little bit different than on the long layered cut, which is number one, that the layering will be a lot more angled, and the cube idea will come into play even more so than before. The hair will be cut straight up from the head again at a square angle, such as this. And you can see where the fullness will be. The fullness will be in the crown, in the front, and at the nape. And then you can just picture that cube in your mind. Keep that in mind as you cut the hair. Also, the hairline is very important on a short layered cut because it's shorter around the hairline. In the nape area where you have growth patterns, in Judy's case, she's got growth pattern that the hair grows to the center. And it's very, very obvious that it's growing to the center. Because as you comb it, you can see that it just flips right into that middle. I can comb it up and watch it fall. As it falls right to the center. So, in order to compensate for that, we're going to leave the hair just slightly longer in that area so that the hair, instead of coming to the center, the hair will appear to come down and lay close to the neck. We're going to give her a nice, short, perky look, so she'll have a short layered cut around the sides. It'll angle down. And this cut can be adapted to men or women. Any of the cuts I do can be adapted to men or women. We'll go ahead and part off the hair just exactly like we did with Jess. We'll use the nose as a center guide. Part back with the wide teeth of your comb. Part to your thumb at the top of the hair, top of the crown. And we'll part back far enough so that we can come down to the sides of the ear, middle of the ear, down with the wide teeth of the comb to your thumb. If you part this way, you'll have a nice straight part every time. We'll clip that away and keep that nice and neat and tidy. Put our thumb at the top of the ear, middle of the ear, comb down with the wide teeth of the comb, part down to the thumb, let that hair fall away, and you'll find that that's a real nice, easy way to part, instead of just chopping at the hair and trying to find a part in there somewhere. All right, to find the part at the base of the neck, we find the bone at the base of the neck, move our finger up, that's the center of the back of the head. We will part down from the top, part down to your thumb, comb that hair away. There we have our center part, and that will let us know exactly where the center of the head is. That way we'll get both sides even. We're going to make a smaller parting for a short layered cut at the base, since we're going to be layering it a little bit more at the bottom than we did on the long layered cut. We'll part over to our thumb. We'll put it right in the center of the part we had in the center at the back. Part over to our thumb. Comb that hair up, twist it, get it out of our way. Partings and fingers are two really important things in hair cutting. It's not just the scissors. Right now we're going to cut the nape. Let's make sure the hair is nice and wet. We want to keep that hair just like paper, just like we did before. We want to start at the center again. We'll comb down, turn the comb, follow the comb. This time we're going to be cutting the hair on the skin instead of in our fingers. So we're going to comb down, turn the comb, bring that comb down, follow the comb with your fingers, and stop your fingers right where you want to cut. Not above it, not way up here, because what happens is if you stop your fingers way up here and you want to cut way down here, look how messy that hair is. How are you going to get a good cut line that way? You won't. So you need to follow that comb down with your fingers right where you want to cut cut just right below your fingers. Put the scissors on the skin. And see how I'm holding the comb when I'm not using it? You can turn the comb this way, you can turn the comb this way, either way. Just get it up and out of your way. Follow the comb down with your fingers. Now remember, we're going to leave this a little bit slightly longer at the sides because her hairline wants to flip in. So we're going to follow the comb down with the fingers and angle it down slightly. Angle that down. Keep your fingers nice and firm. Don't stretch the hair, just hold it firmly. Now what I did, these hairs down here are just so small, such a small amount, that I cut right above those, and you can just go back and trim those off. There's just such a small amount. We're not cutting a long ways above the hairline. We're cutting it just right on the hairline. Now, on the cut where you hold this hair right onto the skin, you want to cut out toward the face with the scissors. That way you'll get an even cut and you won't be cutting up into the hair. In this case I'm using the back of my hand because it's easier to show you. It's hard to do it this way. It's easier to do it, use the back of your hand in this area right here. And there's just a few little hairs left and we'll just trim those off. You have to be able to see the guideline underneath. If you can't, it means the section is too large or you've gone past your guideline or you've stopped too far in front of it. Now your guideline is the cut that we just made. That's your guideline cut. You want to make sure that that's even on both sides before you make your second parting. Your guideline cut will give you the guide for this cut. Okay, what we're going to do, we're already running out of hair in the center here. This has already been layered. Now if this was long, you'd have a lot of hair to cut here. So what I'm doing is I'm going to show you enough partings so that you can go all the way up to the crown, just like we did on Jess's hair. We're going to cut from the center out again. Cut right on the guideline, not into it. Right on the guideline, not into it. Pull your fingers right down to that line and cut. Don't try to cut up here. Remember what I said. That will get all messy and you won't be able to cut a clean, tidy cut. Same thing on this side. Now, what I just said about going past the guideline, if you can't see that line underneath, either you've gone too far or you've stopped up too high. Now she's got such a small amount of hair left here to cut that it's relatively easy to cut the rest of her hair here. But if it was thicker and had more layers, or it was longer, you would have a lot more hair to cut off on that section. I think we're going to run out of layers here. We'll just check it. Now, like I said before, we would part it all the way up at 1-inch partings if this was all one length or if it was longer. So what we're going to do now is just go down and check out the rest of that hair. We'll just cut off the remainder of what's left from the top. What we're going to do here is angle. We're going to keep the hair shorter, about mid-ear, and then we're going to angle it into the back so it will blend. We don't want it chop long. We want to blend this. So we'll make about an inch parting. Now in Jessica's hair we made a large parting because her hair was going to be long. On this we want to be able to see the ear. And we're going to make our guideline cut what we want to do is make it short enough to give her an angle look. So we'll take that first small section, about a 1-inch section, comb it down onto her skin. Now if this was a child, you want to protect their face from the scissors by holding your fingers here. We'll just angle the scissors down. In this case, you can just hold one finger here just to hold the hair firmly enough. You don't have a whole lot of hair bouncing around here. It's such a small section. We'll take a small section over the ear. Angle your fingers now down the direction you're going. And then we'll just blend that with the back. A small section in the back. We'll clip that out of the way. You want to just blend that right in with that back. And the way you do that is that hair, I'm combing this hair straight down, but I'm angling the comb. The reason I do that is because you don't want to over direct the hair this way. You're going to get way too much hair cut off. So what you want to do is comb the hair down and then angle the comb and the fingers. So you just blend that back with the front. Just go down at an angle and keep going until you run out of hair, because you're going to come to your guideline in the back. Just like that. Now we'll go over to the other side and do exactly the same thing, but make sure you take extra time on your guidelines. And now you might want to check and see if both of those sides are even before you continue. And it's okay if you have to cut off a little bit, because it's best to check. Now, in this case, rather than coming up, I would suggest that you hold your fingers down, cut in this way with the scissors rather than trying to cut up. Because what's going to happen is you're going to end up cutting this too short. And it might seem a little awkward at first, but you'll get a lot more accurate cut. So get the comb out of the way and go ahead and cut down. And you're going to find that guideline in the back. Remember to hold the hair firmly but not stretching the hair. And then go ahead again this way if it's uneven, because then you already have your length established and you can even it up. And then you haven't cut it too short. Okay, we're going to take another section and just get the rest of that hair cut off at the base. If her hair is already layered, the hair is already layered, you're going to run out of hair soon, just like we did in the back. If it's long like Jessica's, then you'll continue up to the center part. You cut down. Now, here's where we find the guideline again. The guideline's underneath. You comb the hair down with the small teeth of the comb. You'll pick that up. If you can't see it, you should be able to pick that up and see that short hair right underneath there. We'll cut that right on that line, not into it, but right on it. It's okay if you're not perfectly even when you do this cutting down on this side, because you can go back and cut up and clean it up a little bit. That's the absolute best way to cut this side. Now we'll go and cut the other side. Excuse me. One more parting here. I think we've run out of hair. See, if this was long, we would continue on up, but this isn't, so we're just going to leave that. We'll go to the other side. We're going to blend Judy's bangs, the front area with the sides, and we're going to round out the sides. Now this haircut really shows off the curvature of the front of the face. And so what we're going to do, because we want this hair to move back and be layered and kind of full around the face, we're going to shorten it up and follow the curvature of the face and the brow line. Keep that hair wet. We want to cut it just like paper. And I know I keep saying that, but it's very important because you can cut hair just like paper. It doesn't have to be all these little separate hairs going every which way, not knowing what to do with them all. See it as a cube with paper. Sometimes people look at a head of hair and they see all those hairs all over the place and they don't know what they're going to do with them all. Well, this makes it very clear and very easy. Okay, we're going to pull this down. We don't want the bangs too short, remember, and they are elastic when they're wet. So we want to be careful, not cut them too short. Don't pull on them. Don't stretch them. Just hold them firmly. We'll come in and cut right on the bridge of the nose with our finger. My finger is right resting on the bridge of her nose. That way you won't get the bangs too short. You can always go back and trim them off when the hair is dry. And we'll start angling our fingers slightly into the curvature of the face. And I've got my fingers way down, right above her eye. Because when that's dry, watch what happens when that's dry and it bounces back up. Look how short that is. That's going to be right at her eyebrow line. So that's how much hair stretches. Okay, we'll come back over and we're going to do what we're going to do on the sides. Judy's hairline grows very close to her eyebrow. So what we're going to do is right where the fall line is, remember where the hair starts to thin out? That's called the natural thinning line. That fall line where the hair starts to grow down this way, we'll pull the hair down and see how the hair is actually angled the way it grows. It's not way up here, it's not way down here. I'm just letting it fall the way it grows, and then I'm combing it smooth by turning my comb, keeping it nice and smooth. And you can hold your finger there if you don't feel comfortable, letting it loose. And just follow that right down, angled. And see how that follows the curvature of the face? And that will layer back very nicely, fall into the layering on the sides. We'll go back over and do the same thing on the other side. Blend the bangs. Have your fingers right in front of her eye. If you can feel the bridge of her nose still with the back of your finger, make sure that you keep your fingers angled in the right direction. I say things over and over again because I know when I taught my classes, people would forget and they'd start holding their fingers way up into here and cutting all over the place. Hairdressers, if you watch them, they keep the hair very neat and tidy. There's a definite reason for that. Okay, we're turning the comb, keeping it nice and flat, keeping that hair just like paper. This time I would like you to cut down. So I'm going to move around, show you how to cut down into this cut, because if you cut up, you have a tendency to cut it too short. It won't be like the other side. So you want to cut down, just cut right around the eye. If this was a child, I would hold my fingers here and cut down like this to protect them from the scissors, because sometimes they move quickly. Okay, we're going to go into the layering now. And this is fun because it's going to be relatively quick and easy compared to the long layering. The reason is, this is very obvious, this kind of layering. We have a square here and a square here. This is exactly the way we're going to layer it. So we're going to start out, we'll wet it down a little bit more. We want to keep it nice and wet. We've got the perimeter cut. Now you could leave this if you wanted a one length cut. You could still do this and you'd have a hairstyle. In this case, we're going to show you some more layering. This is called short layering. We're going to part this off in the center again. Part over to the ear. We want to make this section right at the top of the ear. This is a lot larger section for the layering part of it because I'll show you in a minute why. We want to make we're going to have weight down here. Remember, weight is a lot of hair coming down at one point. The more hair that comes down at one point, the more weight you have. So what we're going to do is we're going to leave some weight down here so the hair isn't shaved in. That would be more like a man's cut. So what we're going to do is leave some weight. Take a section in the center again. You noticed how we always start in the center? Because what that does, it gets it even. As you go from the center out, you get a lot more even haircut. So start in the center. Pull the hair out. Now, the weight is the part of is the hair that drops away. This hair down here doesn't matter. That's already been cut. The line has already been established. So you pull up the hair, let that fall away, and you need to have your fingers straight out from the head. Remember, we're cutting it like this, in a box. So your fingers need to be straight up and down. The hair needs to be straight out from the head. You always keep the hair on a short layered cut straight out from the head because it's going to fan out just like this, and we're going to cut it just exactly like the hair grows. So we're going to cut this. Pull it straight out. Let that weight fall away. That's our guideline. Check your fingers. Make sure they're straight out from the head. Cut straight up. Next section, right next to that. Small section, about 1 inch wide. Straight out from the head. Now, find your guideline. Just like you did before. It's right there, right next to it. Pull the hair straight out from the head. If you go over here, you'll lose your guideline. You won't find it anymore. If you go over here, your guideline's gone. So pull it straight out from the head. Cut straight up on that guideline, not into it. We will finish the rest of this section off camera and continue on camera with the rest of the haircut. We're going to part off about a 2-inch parting here and just leave the crown. We'll leave the crown to the very last again because the crown will be the crucial part. We want to make sure that that crown doesn't get cut too short. If the crown gets cut too short, if you've ever seen a bad haircut, the haircut is really short up here. It looks like a little tuft of something other than hair. We'll cut it all the way around just like this. We'll find our lower guideline, cut right next to our new guideline. Our old guideline. Cut our new guideline. Right on it, not into it. I'm cutting right on the guideline. Remember, if you're moving the hair forward or back, you're not going to see your guideline. So if you're wondering what's going on, you can't find your guideline, it's because your fingers are way back here or way here. Now remember to cut with the scissors close to the hair. Don't be. What happened in some of my classes, people would pull the hair out and then they'd forget and they'd start cutting way out here. Or they'd keep their fingers back here and the hair would fall away and they'd lose everything. And you can't do that. You can't go flipping the hair around. So pull it out, fingers straight, check your angles. We're going to go to the crown. Now here, a little bit right here. Because she's got a growth pattern. She's got a forward growth pattern and a sideways growth pattern. So her hair bounces a little bit. So it's a good example to show you why you want to comb the hair loosely in the crown. To see how that hair is going to lay when dry. We're going to do the same thing again down into the center. And we're going to pull the hair straight out. And see how much extra length that leaves on top? To cut into it like this, it would be cutting all the weight off. We'll go back. It's done, and we'll just round it, and I'll show you a real simple way to do that, and you'll never, ever have the crown too short. This hair starts to grow down on the side here, so be sure that you pull that hair straight out from the head. Don't angle it back here. Notice I am not holding hair ever like this. I never hold the hair like this. I always hold my hair one on top of the other, and that holds it firmly. If you hold like this, it's too loose because your fingers have holes in them. We will go ahead and blend in the sides. And what we're going to do with Judy is leave the top section. Now this top section, we'll cut in a minute, but we're going to part this off just above where the hairline starts to recede, because the head starts to round out here. The head is flat here, and it starts to round out. We're still remembering, picturing the box, though. Just keep that in your mind, and you'll start to see it. Have you noticed that your guideline is in the back? Because you're coming from the back forward. So your guideline is right back here. You push the hair away, guideline's right in the back. Now what we want to do in the front, this front section, we want, when this is dry, we want to brush this back, make this real full and fluffy. So we're going to just blend this front. Just be careful not to cut off too much in the front. Sometimes people have a tendency to pull it forward, and that will cut off too much hair. You've already cut around the face here, so that's already layered. So you don't need to cut a whole lot off right behind that. Okay, we're going to do the same thing on the other side. I've got awfully long fingers, so if you've got smaller hands than I do, what you might want to do is part the hair down here and take a little smaller section. Layer it straight up, cut it straight off, and we've already cut the back, so don't worry about that. Again, we're going to start in the center. See that guideline fall away there? That's weight. We also need weight in the front. We need weight in the back, and we also need weight in the front. So watch that just fall away, pull that up, and just cut off the remainder of the hair that's sticking up there. The section up from the back, and just continue to add to that front section with a small, about 1 inch section. I'm holding the hair straight up from the head. Not over here, not over here, not back here. I'm holding it straight up all the time, just like that cube. Just keep that cube in mind. Picture that cube in your head the whole time. Pretend like this person isn't even a person, it's just a square cube. Here's the back section we already cut. Do you see this? Okay, we're going to cut off that section from the front to the back, and we're done with that whole center section. We'll do the same thing for the whole rest of the top until we run out of hair on the sides, holding the hair straight up, cutting it off, doing exactly the same thing as we did with the center section for the whole top section of the head. Don't try to round it out. We'll do that in a minute. Hold that straight up from that part. Find your guide. Remember, I haven't said that for a while. Find your guide. We've blended the whole top now with the back. Now I'm going to show you a really cute trick. And this is what makes hair cutting, the way I do it, very, very simple. We've cut the hair in a square manner. We've cut it short on top, short in the back. Brought these sections together, just like this, all the way around. What we're going to do now is go back in what's called point-to-point hair cutting. We will take off the points, and it is very, very simple. Make sure the hair is wet. The hair fans out in a pie shape. We'll follow that pie shape by picking up hair all the way around the head at an angle, because what we're doing is we're taking off the corners. So we're angling it like this to take off that corner. In other words, we've got these two corners coming together, and we're just simply rounding out the haircut by cutting off this. Pick it up, pull out, and you will see that corner as clear as a nose on your face. It's right there. See that point? It's a lot of extra hair right there. Here's the angle we just cut at the side, the angle we just cut at the top, and we're just going to cut that corner off. You're still holding the hair as the way the hair grows, straight out from the head. You're just coming out like this and cutting off the points, and we'll do that all the way around the whole crown of the head, and the haircut will be done. Here's the back hair that we cut, here's the front. We'll just cut that off. straight out from the head. Just cut that point off. This is why the hair just needs to be kind of laying in a circular manner, because what you're doing is just taking sections from that center part of the head. There's your point. Cut it right off. And now we'll dry Judy. Make her look beautiful. Okay, we've done our short layered cut, and now we're going to dry it, and you can see the finished product. Okay, now here's Judy with our short layered cut, dried and styled. And I hope you had as much fun cutting it as I did.